Welcome to Building Reddit. I'm your host, Ryan H. Lewis. Communities form the backbone of Reddit. From r football to r AskReddit, people come from all over the world to take part in conversations. While Reddit is a US-based company, the platform has a growing international user base that has unique interests and needs. Nick Singer is a community strategist at Reddit who helped launch this very podcast. He came to me recently with an idea for an episode.
I recently joined the international team as a community strategist working on moments like place and recap. Previously, I was on the communications team where I was working on product launches and tech stuff, including this podcast and launching it with Ryan. And after about 4.5 months on the international team, I've really got a cool peek under the hood at all the initiatives and work we're doing in the international markets that I really wasn't aware of before. And so I reached out to Ryan and the country growth leads in India, France, UK, Germany, and Brazil. And I thought it'd be good to connect everyone together to talk about all the cool things we're doing in those markets and all the individual approaches that we're taking in those markets to help Reddit grow in those markets sustainably and in a way that makes sense for communities to thrive.
So first, we talked to Aaliyah and Vincent in France.
I'm Vincent. I've been at Reddit for 2 years now. I joined back in October 2021. And I'm the growth lead for France. So basically my job is to grow the French markets, making sure that we have an increasing number of people that use the platform in France. And also just to grow the local community ecosystem while making sure it's still safe, welcoming, especially for people that do not speak English. In France, we have a lot of people that do not speak English at all. So a good part of the job is growing the local communities ecosystem so that when someone comes to Reddit in France, he can find local and relevant content.
I'm Alia. I'm the community lead for Reddit in France, and I joined in October 2021, so it's been exactly 2 years. I have different missions at Reddit. One is to work closely with international communities and moderators to support their development and growth. Another one is to build programs to enhance the chances for local new mods to succeed when they create their first community. And the last one is basically to be the voice of the community internally. So making sure to bring a local perspective internally so that cross-functional teams at Reddit are able to build the Reddit of tomorrow with INTN communities in mind.
That's cool. So both of y'all started at the same time. Was there like some kind of new Reddit moving into France type push that happened?
Yeah, I think when we joined, international became priority as a whole. So it was France, it was also Germany, recruited a few folks in operations as well. And then, in the first few months, we had this big focus on France and Germany. We had Manu working with us, who was my counterpart, and many people just being more focused on making Reddit more local. And then we had also other countries opening afterwards, and some changes in the strategy. But when we first joined, France was a big priority alongside with Germany.
How is it working for Reddit from France?
It's pretty unique, given that we don't have an office here in France. So we do work a lot from home, but we do have access to co-working spaces. So from time to time, we can just go to co-working spaces when we want to have more, vibrant environment and make sure we work with people that are also, doing the work. It's also a bit unique because we get to wake up before the US. So in the morning, we can do a lot of focus work, a lot of executional work, this kind of stuff. And then in the afternoon, you have more the opportunity of doing meetings and talking with folks, focusing more on the strategy. So I really like this routine of just having the focus work in the morning, having time to execute, and then in the afternoon, just talking with the counterparts and making sure we set the strategy for the days after.
What would you say actually makes a community healthy for Reddit?
That's a really good question. And this is something that I think the both of us have really thought about in the last 2 years we've been here, especially because it's often market specific. And I think we were able to identify maybe 4 key components that make a community healthy and vibrant. I would say that the first one is to have a team of engaged moderators, because mods are really at the heart of a thriving community. They are the main community builders. They set the tone and the culture. And most importantly, they provide the framework for community members to engage safely in conversations. And this is really true specifically in a market where we don't have as many communities, active communities at other markets like the US, for example. The other component, and I'm deeply convinced it is the most important one, is safety. A community is healthy because the community members have this shared responsibility with mods to maintain a safe environment for everyone. And members should really feel able to spot inappropriate content or behavior, especially in their language, report it or turn to the mod team directly for support. Another one is inclusivity, because we really believe, and this is true across the platform, that every user should feel welcome to engage in good faith and seamlessly in discussions. So I think it's really important to be able for a community to welcome diverse voices because it creates a really rich and dynamic community where different viewpoints are represented and actually feel valued. And as a user, I feel like you just extract much more value from this community as a result of that inclusivity. And last, but probably just as important as the other points, comes engagement. Whether it is recurring posts or what we call rituals, where members are just encouraged to share specific content at a given time of the week, or even activities like we have Secret Santa on r/friends, for example, or just with invitation to external speakers with AMAs, with speakers that are connected to the topic of the sub. I feel like a healthy community should really be able to come together at different times, and we should be able to see very lively, timely discussions hosted on the sub.
Yeah, I think like overall what makes a healthy community on Reddit is what makes a healthy community everywhere, whether it is online or in real life. A community needs to be based on a belonging sentiment. As Alia said, it needs to be welcoming. And that's why I think like one of the biggest challenge when it comes to growing Reddit communities in France is making them local and in local language. As I said, a lot of people do not speak in English. So a community could be as big, as engaging, as vibrant as it could be. If it's not in local language, a huge part of the French population won't feel welcome or even like belonging to this community. So I think we should really tackle these kind of challenges to make sure that in the next few years, people that would discover Reddit decide to retain longer and feel really belonging not only to the communities, but also to the platform as a whole.
How do you approach growing French language communities on Reddit?
That's a really good question. I'd say that like one of the big piece of work that we had when we joined Reddit at the beginning was trying to run a program where we would help moderators build and grow their community. And a lot of this was based on trying to either import communities from other social platforms or try to foster communities that were already big in the US. So foster local counterparts of the really big communities in the US. And what we found out is that actually it's sometimes easier just to help a new community that is organically created locally and more relevant to the local culture. It's easier for us to grow that and help them grow it than creating from scratch a community that would have worked in the US and is not like something that will 100% work in France. So we have good examples of community that are counterparts and we help grow. Like we have the French Am I the Asshole, which is really big. We have the French No Stupid Questions. But we also have some examples where we tried to grow those communities, but we never managed to get them where we wanted to get them. On the other hand, we saw some communities that we would never have thought about, that French people would have created organically and grew by themselves. Like the biggest meme community in France called r/friends is pretty unique in the sense that it's based on like the rivalry we have with the UK, for instance. It has like this editorial guidelines that are really specific and really unique to France. And this is not something that we would have been able to grow just by copy and pasting something we identified elsewhere. So that's one thing. The other thing is also like Reddit is a pretty specific platform in the sense that value is at the heart of it. Upvotes, commenting, making sure that the quality content is actually shown. And this is why some communities may take a harder time to develop, because you have like memes community, for instance, that are really specific, really on a specific aspect of the French culture. And so in order to be part of this community, you really need to create quality content. And so when you have to create quality content, it puts a barrier for new users to participate, and it makes it harder for the community to grow. But overall, what we can see is that a lot of the Q&A communities work really well in France. A lot of the expertise community, people helping each other, really work well in France. And we can say also that everything that is related to videos, to images that are really popular in the US, for instance, are not at the same stage of maturity in France. A lot of the content that will grow fast is around text-heavy communities, which is like the primarily value of Reddit when everything began. So yeah.
Vincent, you mentioned some things about some communities not really taking in France, whereas some did in terms of, no stupid questions, for instance. What are some of the problems that you might run into, not French specific, but just when you're trying to grow these healthy communities? What are kind of some of the recurring things that you found that pop up that make it harder to either have a large community or have a healthy community?
Yeah, that's also a great question. Like we have a lot of communities that are created overall on the platform. We do have a fair amount of communities that are created on a daily basis in France as well. The first thing is that the real challenge is making it clear how we think we can grow a community on Reddit and what are like the basics for growing a community. Once you create a community, you have to set up rules, some mod rules. You have to set up regularly some content. You have to cross-post some content in other communities. You have those basic steps that most of the users don't know when they create a community. So we have to really be better in how we communicate those first steps, because we found that a lot of the community that are created actually end up being given up in the first few days. And then we also have a work and a challenge that is pretty specific to international, which is making those communities discovered. When you have already those big English-speaking communities that are really popular and have a lot of upvotes and engagement, they would show up in your feed more easily than a new French community, for instance. So we work with the product team to develop some tools that would enable us to show those communities more regularly, show those communities to people who might be interested into those topics or looking for those topics. And a good part of the challenge is like making the content discoverable. So it's all about supply and demand. We have at the same time to have enough content that people would engage with, but we have this content. We have to make sure that this content gets discovered so that new users can engage and participate. And the last one is making sure it's clear and easy to participate in the community. It's part of the welcoming aspect of it. And a community is only going to take if you know what you have to post, you know what you will be rewarded for, and you know that you are welcome to post in the community. So that would be for the growing side. And then you always have to keep it healthy. So that's why you start setting up, stricter rules, this kind of stuff. But that's, for me, like the main aspects and the main challenges of growing a community.
When it comes to growing a community, I think one important element also to mention is that new mods, specifically the local ones, have very different needs than mods with tenure who have been on the platform for a longer time. These experienced mods are also oftentimes just very familiar with Reddit as a platform and just have a better understanding of the options that are being offered to them and our mod tools. And when it comes to new mods, education plays a really huge part, because starting a community on Reddit, let's be honest, it can be an overwhelming process. We have seen that new mods tend to need more guidance to build their community. And our role is really to find the right strategy and communication pieces to empower them to take the actions in their first few days, weeks, months, and also offer concrete resources that could help them succeed. So, for example, we came up with toolkits and guides and design elements that are all pre-made to make sure that mods can customize their community and make it look and feel more welcoming. We can also support, on the editorial side to make sure that people who want to create a subreddit can identify from the get-go the type of content that they would like to see other members share or engage with in the future. But I think it's also through very simple but critical actions that new mods build their community. Like Vincent said it, establishing rules and specifically emphasizing the importance of respectful engagement among community members. It's just one rule, but it makes a hell of a difference. And I think for this part, we really use data to experiment quickly and identify what is helpful to mods. So collecting early signals to understand really how new mods set up their communities and the steps that they take to do so. And we use this information to guide us in crafting programs and initiatives to basically just enhance their chances of success. We want to make sure that moderators feel confident and empowered to build a welcoming space that is going to resonate with local people from the very beginning. We also spend a lot of time just simply talking to them and understanding how we could support and help them have a better experience. And I think, just by simply having these conversations, we're able to identify the tools and maybe the improvements that could just better their journey as a community creator. I think it's all of this to say that we're not short on ideas and resources to make this effort a success. And I'm going to be very corporate here, but I feel like we really strive to create and maintain vibrant, inclusive, and safe Reddit communities that reflect the values of Reddit as a platform. And this is really our objectives. I can talk just a bit more on the challenges aspect of things. I think when it comes to growth, particularly, we want to make sure that the community doesn't overgrow the moderation team. When a community attracts more members and there is an increase in participation, it can result in more content to handle and to review for the mod team. And it's very exciting because it means that more people perceive the value the space brings to them and that they want to start conversations. But in this case, it's really important for us to ensure that a community doesn't become too heavy for a single moderator. And in this regard, one of the challenges is to keep all of these new conversations alive while we support moderators in recruiting more teammates, because it all has to happen at the same time. And I think another aspect, and it's not necessarily a challenge, but something that we have to keep in mind, is to involve community members in the future of the sub and just encourage moderators to ask them for feedback. As the community grows, there are more voices represented on the sub. And I think to grow without hurdles, we should encourage a close collaboration between mods and the rest of the community, especially to gather feedback and to evolve the sub, the rules, and also maybe the kind of content that they want to see and that they want to share, just to make sure that the community continues to align with expectations and conversations that are happening organically. I would just say that it's a tricky moment because you don't want to alienate the first core members of the sub, but you also want to be inclusive of new members. And I think the solution is to consult with everyone.
That reminds me that we, for the past few months and towards the end of the year, started up our mod roadshow again. And I know that there are some get-togethers planned in France. Will y'all be joining that? And are there any plans, any kind of things you hope to get out of that?
I think we're just excited to connect with mods in a context that is not virtual, just bridge the gap, between our platform and what is happening in their real life. And I think it's just a moment for us to share on our love for Reddit, but also, let's be honest, on the hurdles that they have on a day-to-day, their concerns, anything that we could help them with. I think it will be important for us to have the conversation that really matter to them, because I think they will have, questions and ideas for the future of Reddit. And I think it's really just a great time for us to be able to connect with the local community that makes Reddit Reddit and so specific in France. And I think, it's just an opportunity for us to grow and just, further our goals and make sure that we're going in the right direction. I feel like it's just a way for us to also test some of the ideas, have the conversations, and also create, a community of moderators where people just feel connected and they feel like they belong to like this bigger community of moderators on Reddit who are just like creating content, offering a safe space for everybody to start conversations. So yeah, just we're really excited, and we just need to make sure that we will have time to talk to everybody.
I couldn't agree more with Alia. I think it's something that we are really looking forward to. It's also normal, to get to meet those mods. A lot of those mods are what we call historic mods that have been there, moderating the platform, creating content, just creating communities way before Alia and I were there. So it's also just a way to say thank you and say hello to those people that we have never met. We consider that we have started launching France since 2021, but the reality is Reddit has been in France since the creation of Reddit. And so those people were there and have been there since the beginning. And so it's just normal to see what are their needs, their evolution, what they think about the platform, what we are doing right now, and talk with them. And we also know that we have more and more new people joining the platform and starting to moderate. So it's also an occasion to see what are the needs of mods in the early days. Because as Alia said, this new generation of mods is the one that will help us just grow the Reddit ecosystem in France and make sure we have healthier and even more engaging communities in France.
From France, we then spoke to Manuel in Germany.
Yeah, so my name is Manuel. I'm from Germany. I'm the country lead for Germany, and I started 2 years ago. I was basically one of the first employees specifically for our international markets, and specifically for Germany in this case. And basically my day-to-day job is connecting different teams at Reddit and making sure everyone has the background knowledge about Germany, our German users, our German communities. And so I'm basically sharing my knowledge as the local expert for other teams.
So what's it like working from Germany, I guess remote from, wherever you work?
Yeah, so we actually have an office in Berlin, but there's only a few people from our sales team there and a few engineers. But I'm living in a different part of Germany, so I'm working fully remote, as Ollie said. And so that's why meeting our different people from other teams is always a highlight when you can meet in person with our European team and our US team. So that's definitely a highlight of each quarter, each year. And working from Germany in general, I would say changed quite a lot over the past 2 years. When I joined, the company was really US centric. And we have this time zone difference of 9 hours between the West Coast and Germany. And there have been some funny situations around that, because one of my job interviews was at 9:30 p.m. in the evening. And my first day at Reddit ended at 10 p.m. And one of my colleagues had a call with me back in the days at 6 a.m. their time. So that was quite funny to work this out until everyone was aware of these differences. And today I would say Reddit has become an international company. I'm working closely with our European team, which means European time zones, and we're growing internationally. So that's great for us. And like I said, Reddit is an international company today.
Yeah, and besides being turning into an international company, Reddit's kind of, I guess, as part of being on the internet, has always been an international application or platform. And so it seems like Reddit is really about community, and I guess the German community on Reddit is probably different in many different ways from the US community or the UK community or any of the different communities. So I'm curious, what is unique or different about the German market, and how is the presence of Reddit growing in Germany?
Yeah, so I think Germany is currently the biggest non-English speaking market. So that means we already have quite a large user base compared to other international markets. Of course, there's and not that much awareness of Reddit as it is in the US. I mean, in the US, everyone knows about Reddit. In Germany specifically, there's a rising awareness across the people, but that's it. And so I think that's one of the biggest challenges for us, making sure that more and more people learn about the value of Reddit and our great communities. As for our community specifically, I would say we have a great foundation to work with. We have great moderators. We have 2 communities with more than 1 million subscribers right now, which is quite a milestone for our international markets. We also have a growing diversity of communities. And I think the main difference between our communities right now is that we have rather some of these catch-all communities, while in the US you can go really deep into specific topics. And one of my favorite examples is always the fitness communities, where we basically have this one community for all fitness-related stuff, Fitness.de, while in the US you can have a specific community for everything. And even if it's just vegan bodybuilding, you will have the dedicated spot for these kind of topics to talk about. And I think that's exactly our challenge, to grow local content while there's the competition with English-speaking content, because many of our German users speak English really well. Some of them are on our platform for 10 or more years. So they know how to use the English-speaking ecosystem for their needs. And I think the main challenge is to have this transition between keeping this English content available for all of our users, while making sure that new users who are probably not that fluent in English can also participate in local communities.
You mentioned users who've been using Reddit for a long time. How did you decide to, like, how did you come to be working at Reddit? Like, were you familiar with Reddit before and you were just like wanted to be a part of it, or was it just kind of some random job opening that you saw come your way?
I would say it's a mix of both. So I've been working at a different social network here in Germany than before, and I've always dreamed of working for something bigger, something with an impact for the whole world, I would say. And I knew Reddit before. I've been a user for 2 or 3 more years before I started. And so I knew about Reddit in general, but I never knew that there was content in German at that time. So when I read about this open position, I was like, okay, that sounds really interesting, especially when you're one of the first employees to kind of influence the whole strategy of the international growth. And that's how I came to Reddit, because we need to grow in Germany.
That's cool. You mentioned kind of a challenge or an opportunity in that a lot of maybe some of the existing German users like yourself are using Reddit in English. How do you get them, or how do you get them to start using German on Reddit? Is there some strategy to make that happen?
So what we can see is that it's easier for some topics, while it's really difficult for others. So for example, gaming is a huge topic for our German users. And we see that there's so much content in our English communities that there's not really an incentive to join a small German community to participate in there when you have access to all of these posts. However, we see that whenever it's something where you have to express your emotions, your feelings, or you're asking for advice, it's a lot more important to express yourself properly. And that's where we see a lot more people talking in German than in English, just because it's easier and like there's not that much of a language barrier to ask for advice.
I'm imagining there's there must be a German "Am I the Asshole" subreddit.
Definitely one of our biggest communities. Yeah.
Okay, cool, awesome. Okay, what are, other than maybe like gaming and I don't know, maybe the German "Am I the Asshole"? What are kind of some topics and communities that German Redditors are into?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the biggest communities or topics that our users are talking about are definitely gaming, memes, and news. And apart from that, we are currently seeing huge growth in our profession-based subreddits. It means for university students, for employees, apprentices, and other very specific professions. So that's something that's currently growing. And I would say there's in general quite some growth across many different topics, because Reddit used to be a platform mainly for gamers and tech people in the past. And I think we can see that this is transitioning to something a bit more mainstream. And there's communities for a broad variety of topics now. So books, gardening, finance, do-it-yourself, cars, I don't know, cooking, so everything. So we see that all of this is growing, and there's some smaller ecosystem growing around these different topics. We start with one big community, and then they split out into smaller topics, and yeah, we can go really into depth of these communities then.
Okay, so in July of 2023, this year, Reddit ran the Our Place experiment again, and it was clear if you were watching it that there were lots of big German flags, I'm assuming German memes or German specific things that were popping up around in different places. It probably wasn't, some Americans adding those pixels to create those German flags. So how did I guess Germans organize and come together to have such a prominent presence on Our Place this year? And I think actually previous years as well, but this year is when I was really paying a lot of attention. So how did that happen?
Yeah, so I think in general, Germans love to be organized super well. So that's definitely helpful in these events. But in general, we knew that we had this great community in Place.de, which was very active the year before. And this year we were just supporting this community by making sure that everyone who's interested in Place finds this community and can just engage with all of the things happening in there. And well, I mean, the German team in there was super well organized. We had pixel places who were responsible for creating the artwork. We had users protecting the artwork, and we even had a night watch of several thousand people just staying up all night protecting everything that's related to Germany. And then in combination with that, we had a lot of streamers participating this year. And one of our streamers had more than 100K viewers in his stream. So he had a lot of power in creating a lot of artwork, fighting great battles with other streamers. So that was a lot of fun to watch. And I think especially for us as international teams, it's always kind of a little competition that we have internally between our markets. And we always want to be the top market for all of our metrics. And kind of beating the US has always been a dream for all of our markets. And that's why we had this pixel rankings every day of how many people placed how many pixels from each country. And I think it was on the second day when we noticed, okay, there's something happening in Germany. And we've been coming closer to the US every day and closer every day. And then at some point, the whole international team was just cheering for Germany because everyone was like, okay, this is really exciting. We can really beat the US. And I remember on the last day, after this canvas was white again, I was part of one of these streams, just following the stream. And everyone in the stream was like, okay, this was a crazy experience, a special moment that no one of us will ever forget in the next month or so. Because this was really a feeling of community, and that's happened there because it wasn't an individual who reached that and created all of these artworks, but it was rather the power of community. And I think that's something you can only experience on Reddit.
Was there, it seems like Place in general always seems, it's a great moment for Reddit to feel that power of community, but I feel like there's also, it's a huge opportunity for people outside of Reddit to see kind of what Reddit is about. Considering it was, Germans were dominating this year. What did you see, like kind of a maybe bump in German users, or maybe some outside media? Like, was there more attention on Reddit as a result of Our Place in Germany specifically?
Yeah, definitely. So we saw a huge spike in users that were active during these days. 100K people on Twitch following the stream that definitely also caught some attention. Then media was covering all of the great artwork. And I think that was really probably the first time that Reddit really had this attention in Germany for a few days. And it's really helped us in making aware that there's another platform apart from the big social networks. And yeah, I'm really happy that there were quite a lot of users who are still active on our platform today. Even this community of Place.de is still sharing memes and talking about the good old days. So yeah, that worked out super well for us Germans.
What was the biggest moment this year for German community growth?
So, I mean, Place was definitely a huge moment. But I would say it's not about the big things, but rather the small things that happen in all of the communities every day. So having a great conversation and getting a great recommendation from someone, I think that's the main reason why people come back to Reddit every day. And I think this feeling of belonging and community, that's something that happens in all of the communities, no matter how big they are. And on top of that, we have all of these passionate moderators and the positive culture they maintain in our community. So I think these are the main drivers for our growth. And all of these big moments like our plays are rather something on top. But as long as we have these great communities, I definitely believe that we will grow in our market anyway.
What is your favorite German specific meme?
So I think there's something specifically about me. So because we used to have a project in which we were trying to kickstart city communities, and everyone loves Döner. Döner is the traditional German food, and so we started some discussions in there, making sure we have something everyone can contribute to. And for some reason, people connected all of these posts to me and my admin account. So whenever there's someone talking about Döner today, they're just tagging me and they're like, hey, okay, this is for you. How can you support us in growing this? And funnily enough, our community specifically for Döner has been one of the fastest growing communities over the past months. So I don't know why, but this is has become one of the German memes, specifically among a certain group of users.
Now we'll hear from Nicole in the United Kingdom.
I am Nicole Hurd. I am a country growth lead at Reddit. I look after the UK. And what that means in a nutshell is I look at what is going on Reddit for UK users, see where they like to hang out, see where they like to contribute, see what they like to read, to comment on, to upvote, and figure out where we have our biggest growth opportunities. I started at Reddit just over a year ago.
Reddit it's in terms of like the company, it's based in the US, but we do have like employees and locations and people everywhere throughout the world. What is it like working for Reddit in London?
I mean, it's great. At risk of sounding really corny, it is great. The London office is in Holborn, which is a great part of town. So it's right, like slap bang in the middle. Although I'm sure I'll get pulled up on my geography there, but it's like, to me, that is the center of town. There are a bunch of colleagues that I have who are, I mean, typically from the UK, but who are coming from, lots of other places. So it's a really cool, interesting office with folks who are doing all sorts of different things and have different backgrounds, different perspectives. And whilst there is definitely, there's a lot of US users on Reddit, I'm certainly seeing lots of spaces for UK users, and that you can feel that in the dynamic that we have. So I feel like I get to consume a lot of UK relevant content on Reddit, and certainly like all the things that are run for us by our workplace team are pretty epic. So we get together as London colleagues a lot. We do things together. It's pretty awesome.
So I feel like this might be a question that answers itself, but as like the country growth lead for UK, why is it important that you are in UK while kind of like you are like helping that country grow?
Yeah, I think it's really important to be here in the UK because you need to know what's going on in the market. People who use Reddit are by my friends, my husband, the people across the road, people that I see on the train. You need to know what's going on in the market, what the conversations are that are bubbling up. In the UK at the moment, you need to be in the mix of it. You need to understand what the zeitgeist is saying so that you can really start to understand how that's translating to Reddit. And obviously, as you well know, Reddit is such an incredible space for people to have really authentic conversations. And so knowing what is happening, as I say, all the way from like the top news level, things that are breaking that the whole world is talking about, all the way down to things that are a bit more localized, or, something that's happening in London that Londoners might want to be talking about, or something that's happening in Scotland. Being in the UK, you have your finger on that pulse. You understand what's happening in the market, and then you can start to figure out, okay, now where do I go on Reddit, or what conversation is happening on Reddit that I can work to help amplify or help connect other users to who might be interested in it.
So what are some like specific tasks or specific types of things you might do to maybe amplify those conversations, or, look at like how do we get more people involved in from the UK in these conversations?
Yeah, so I think it always starts with data, looking through the various data sources that we have to figure out what is going on, because whilst my interest in reality TV occupies my day-to-day life, that might not be what all UK users are wanting to talk about. So the data really helps me to understand like where the conversations are happening, what those kind of what subreddits users are going to, like what's happening. So start with the data. Once we start to understand, like, for example, where a subreddit is seeing some significant growth, we can then look into that subreddit and see, what is driving that growth. Is there a specific conversation that's happening, or is there something that's related to a news event? And this is then where the kind of the action starts. So we have some great moderator relations that we have. So we will connect with moderators to understand, like, how are they faring? If a subreddit has seen a sudden burst of activity, we'll work with them to understand, how are they holding up? Do they need any support? Are there any things that we can give to them or help them with that's going to make their lives a little bit easier? We then also have what we call curation services. So we can start to see if this conversation is really blowing up. We can make it a little bit more visible to various users. So those surfaces are really, really powerful to help us amplify these conversations that are taking place. Yeah.
Most of Reddit's content is in English, but often from a US-centric point of view. How does that existing content both help and hinder growth in the UK market?
Yeah, this is like my day-to-day conundrum. So in terms of making it easier, the simple answer is the content already exists. So where if you're in a non-English speaking market, you are starting from scratch, really. You're trying to help potential users who maybe don't know about Reddit, or who maybe are on Reddit, but they're contributing, in small amounts. Like, you're trying to start from scratch. You're trying to build that content ecosystem, because it's a flywheel. The more content that's created, the more people come and look at the content, consume the content, interact with the content. Then they contribute. They'll maybe make a comment, and that feeds into that content flywheel. If you're starting that from scratch, it's hard to do. It's really, really hard to sell someone or to persuade someone to use a product that kind of still needs building. Whereas in the UK, there is so much content that UK users as English speakers can access right away. And the range of communities on Reddit, you can find anything for anyone. So the content existing makes life a lot easier. But then there are some tricky, like some challenges that we face. So for example, US and the UK are very different. As much as there are cultural similarities, there are cultural differences. The way that UK users like to be funny or humor, like a UK. This is a little bit of a generalization, but as someone who, born and bred in the UK, I feel safe saying this. Our humor is a little bit more dry, a little bit sarcastic, a bit self-deprecating, and so we like. to try and we need to create spaces so that UK users can have those conversations. Similarly, just football, football in the traditional sense of the word football, but you might call soccer. For example, UK users love to talk about football. It's a really, really important and popular vertical of ours, a content vertical. So it's, we see a lot of UK users come to talk about the football teams, whether it's national or Premiership or Championship, the leagues go on and on. Having football as a word that is so different. So in the US, if you search for football on Reddit, you will see NFL teams, and that feels like there's a bit of a jar there there's a jarring experience for a UK user. It suddenly makes the platform feel not relevant to you, or it can feel a bit like, oh, this is an American platform. So we face some of those challenges, and also just in terms of market penetration, we just don't have as high a penetration as the US. So whilst Reddit is known, we still have a long way to go to really get Reddit out there to UK users. And we're using a product, we're trying to compete with this evolving landscape of apps and social media platforms that UK users are using. So it's hard. It can be challenging.
What are some of the unique properties or unique topics or things that UK, I guess, as a country, as a region, is really into, or how they operate, I guess, aside from the humor and the football? Anything else unique?
Yeah, so in terms of being really unique, because I would say gaming, for example, but I think gaming is something that a lot of Redditors love, regardless of the geography they're in. I think some things that make UK users unique, they love TV, which again, maybe not unique, but we love a good bit of reality TV, and it would be naughty of me not to call out r/Love Island TV. So that's a subreddit of a really, really popular reality TV show, all about finding love on an island. I won't spoil it too much for you in case you haven't seen it, but it's a great TV show. It becomes a real topic of conversation in the UK when it airs. And we do see a lot of people come to Reddit to have those really animated, excited discussions that are going on. So it's, our UK users love TV, both local TV, but also the big shows that came out this year, like The Last of Us, Succession. UK users also love to, for want of a better terminology, be silly. The humor that I think UK users, particularly on Reddit, have is truly elite. And you see it in subreddits like Great British Memes. So these are memes that are dedicated to just calling out something just ridiculous and charming and witty in UK culture. We have a sub called Compo Face, which is a sub that essentially highlights UK local newspapers where individuals are complaining about something that's really, really tiny. It's like a very kind of low level problem, but they're wanting to complain about it. And of course, they get their picture in the paper of them pointing at the pothole that caused their car to maybe burst a tire. And so these communities, whilst they seem silly, lighthearted, they are places that UK users go because it feels good to laugh and joke and have a little bit of fun with people who are just like you.
Okay, what does Compo Face even mean? I love that. I've subscribed already, but what does Compo Face mean?
Yeah, so Compo Face, it means compo is taken from compensation. So it's the face you make when you want some sort of compensation for something. Yeah. But also it's got another funny link to that. There's this really old TV show in the UK called Last of the Summer Wine. And there was this old guy in it who had this, I could only describe it as like a face that has been weathered by the years, by the brutal early, maybe 1930s, 40s, 50s. And I think there is his name is Compo, and I think there's a little bit of a of a throwback to him as well. So the perfect mix of compensation and compo, that old school character.
Oh, I love that. Is there, it seems like there's, I mean, and I feel like this is, I guess in some ways, I don't know if I feel it as much in the US, maybe because just there's like different kind of cultural identities throughout the US, and it's the same in every country, I'm sure, even in the UK, but it sounds like there are some very specific like UK subreddits that people in the UK would like totally get. How do people from the UK find all of these subreddits? How do they get to Great British Memes and Compo Face?
Yeah, it's a really great question. There's a few ways. So one of the ways is just simply using the search bar at the top of Reddit. So you'll come in, you can use that search bar, and you get a lot of UK specific communities. Certainly, if you're using the search term UK. Compo Face is a good one because unless you know Compo Face, it'd be hard to figure out like, how do you even imagine what you don't even know? So we have a thing called the Communities tab. The Communities tab is a really great tab. If you go on your mobile app of Reddit, you'll see it right down the bottom. It's a way of highlighting communities in a specific geography. So we'll highlight communities that are trending because there's something happening, like, trying to think of an example. When Taylor Swift was doing her tour, or when Beyonce was touring in London, let's use a London specific example. Of course, the r/Beyonce sub is there as one of the trending subs, but we also feature subreddits as well. This is where we try and surface what I like to call our hidden gems. So a Compo Face is a really good example. It's a hidden gem that you might not necessarily come across if you're just typing into the search bar. But if you go to that Communities tab, you'll see lots of different hidden gems, as well as some leaderboards that we have for the UK. So you can see the top subreddits for Q&A, the top subreddits in the UK for sport, for example. And I guess another way that we see people land on various subreddits is through search engine. And again, you often need to kind of know those search terms, and you need to be quite intentional about including Reddit in the search bar. But my hope is that if you're searching for old man wants compensation for pothole, then you're going to land on Compo Face.
I have to admit, I have searched that.
Right? Top search, hey?
Awesome. Okay. Where do you see, so for UK, where do you see there's kind of room for growth in Reddit? Like, where do you feel like people in the UK, I mean, aside from just like with everything, if there's a specific place where you see like, oh, people from the UK really need to get on Reddit because this is like the thing. Aside, I mean, like, I don't know, is it Love Island conversations or Premier League conversations?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like the ready-made thing, and then there's the thing that I think I would love to see happen in my time here. The ready-made thing is exactly as you said. It's Premier League. I went to my first football game a few weeks ago. It was a West Ham game, and they lost. It was quite depressing. But I asked everyone who was there whether they use Reddit and whether they use the r/Hammers sub. So that's a sub dedicated to West Ham. And there were a few people who'd heard of it, and there were a few, like, I did get like about 2 guys who were like, yeah, I use it. I love that sub. There were still quite a few who were like, no, like, I'm not really sure. Or I know about Reddit, but I haven't really used that. And I think that the conversation there and the activity on those subs is such that I think we have this ready-made captive audience who want to discuss the absolute intricacies of these games and these matches. These are season ticket holders. They love their clubs. They need to be on Reddit. We need to get them over here because the conversations that they want to have with, poor old me who knew nothing about the game, they could get such a better conversation if they headed over to Reddit. So that to me is like the ready-made solution. That is like the kind of the no-brainer. The other one that I would love to see in my time here is, I like to call it kind of pop culture discussion. I mean, it's a broad term, but all of the kind of that low level drama that happens in the zeitgeist, whether it's the Real Housewives are up to something, or there's some kind of celebrity gossip, or whether it's a reality TV show, as I mentioned, Love Island or Married at First Sight, these conversations are taking place right now on Instagram or TikTok, and you just don't get the same feedback that you would if you're doing it on Reddit. You don't get that genuine kind of conversation. You don't get to see like what the community sentiment is. You don't get to do it in that kind of safe space. You're commenting on what someone has put out there. And these conversations are happening in the UK. These conversations are relevant and interesting, but they're, I want to bring those users over to Reddit. And these are folks who may not have ever heard of Reddit, but I think once they get on there, they would absolutely love it.
Okay, so here's the real question. Ladies of London canceled after 3 seasons. There aren't any UK Real Housewives franchises. I mean, is it not popular in the UK? What's the deal?
Oh, okay. I'm so glad you asked me. I'm so happy to do this on work time. So Real Housewives is very popular. The entirety of the franchise, right? New York, Atlanta. That's so British. Atlanta. Always in my heart. The thing is, we don't have quite the same format, but what we do have is Made in Chelsea and The Only Way is Essex, which they're not Real Housewives per se, but they follow these individual characters who have all of the trappings of what would make a fantastic housewife. So we have the shows. We're really into looking at how we're fascinated by how people live, particularly the ones that are living in those crazy houses like in Chelsea and Kensington. It's just not quite taken the form of a Real Housewives yet, but maybe with the power of Reddit and my persistence, maybe I could be the first Real Housewife of London.
Hey, that sounds good. We'll have to call Andy and see if he's interested.
We need to.
And finally, we spoke to Asher, who focuses on India.
Hey, I'm Asher. I'm the country growth lead for South Asia. I look after India. The role basically is 3 things. Getting a pulse of the market in terms of which communities exist that we need to scale, and some of the topic gaps that exist, and plugging those in. So a lot of that, the first part involves getting AMAs and figuring out which communities we need to scale up. The second part of the role is being a cross-functional lead and really working with different teams like product, content curation, comms, data science, really ensuring that we're all like rowing in the same direction. And I'd say the third is forming partnerships in the market, and especially for India, raising brand awareness is big. Reddit in the US is really well known, but in India is still there's a lot of ways to go to kind of elevate the recognition. So yeah, I think we've just hit the tip of the iceberg in India. There's a lot that we can do, and I'm super excited that we can grow in India, and that's why I was excited to join Reddit at the start of the year 2023 and help grow the most populated country on earth. So yeah, quite an exciting ambition.
No small feat. Most popular country. So you're working and your focus is on India, but you work from Singapore. I'm curious, what is it like working for Reddit in Singapore?
Yeah, so we're very small here for the time being. Of course, big ambitions. But Singapore is great as a tech hub. There's many regional headquarters of tech companies here. A lot of my friends work in tech. So it also is very close to India. So, 5-hour flight and you're in Mumbai, 5-ish, Delhi, and, many other places, within India. So we actually did a trip, which I'm happy to elaborate on, where we met mods and power users, but, it's a short flight over. It's a great place in terms of, it's very efficient. And it's good to have, because of the short distances, like our team can actually meet in person, though we're remote. We meet like every week, in fact, today as well. And that helps with collaboration and just making things move much faster.
I guess you mentioned that you traveled over there recently. That was for the Mod Roadshow in August, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to, before we get into like specifics of India, I'd love to hear like how was that, and what did you learn?
It was amazing. And so we covered 6 cities in India in the past couple of months, and 5 of those were in a matter of a week. So 7 days, 5 cities, quite tiring, but totally worth it. And I think, we started the first city was Bangalore, where we had our chief product officer, Polly. He was there as part of that meetup as well, where we met a couple of mods. And then most recently in August, we went to 5 cities. We went to Pune, Hyderabad, Kolkata, Delhi, Mumbai. And I just think that, Reddit is about all the mods, about the users. And when you're there meeting them, you realize about the power of the community. Like Hyderabad, for example, they have like meetups on the first Sunday of every month. And, they have 100+ people that are attending that. And, some of them, like when you see some of the posts, I mean, it's anonymous and the faces are blurred out, but it's just such a strong community. With much more like female representation now, because they're finding it safe to attend as well. I think it's just, being like understanding the pain points of our users, and then translating that, to the product team. And that's what we did. We got all this feedback. We went to these 5 cities. What we did is, just to break the ice, we had these activities for block printing, where we were doing art collectively. So it was fun just to see everyone, work on, with these Reddit tote bags, and then do some, work on some art together. But then just getting to know them over food and drinks. I just thought it was really nice to know people, and also dig into, what's their favorite sub, why do they mod, and just, how passionate they are. Like some people spending 4 hours, 5 hours of their day, just because they're so passionate about a topic. And then just coming together as a community, to clean the streets in Hyderabad. In Bangalore, there is a story of Saint Broseph. I'm happy to elaborate on him as well, and some of the work he's done. But yeah, you come back super inspired, and you're like, okay, this is why I do what I do. And yeah, that's, I think, the power of the mod road shows.
Let's zoom out, and I'm curious about what makes Reddit in India unique, like Indian Redditors, and what the growth in India has looked like.
So India is Reddit's fastest growing market. The thing that makes India unique, I mean, we have a huge Indian like English speaking population. So although there's like 22 official languages and hundreds of dialects, people are coming to Reddit speaking in English or in Hinglish. And there are some unique communities. Like one is Bolly Blinds and Gossip. So these are people talking about, their favorite celebrities, and, some of the things that are in the rumor mill. And that's why it's called, like, a blind is kind of like, there's speculation about who this person is. So they're people just discussing and dropping rumors about certain celebrities. So that gets a lot of engagement, a lot of discussion. And India is like celebrity obsessed. We also have a very active cricket community. So right from like r/IPL to r/Cricket World Cup, which is happening right now, the Cricket World Cup. There's a lot of engagement there on that sub. We also launched like avatars, so cricket avatars that can be used like from the 10 teams that are playing. So that's Reddit wide, anyone can adopt it. But that's an initiative that we started here in Asia and rolled out globally. But yeah, just the Reddit community. I mean, there's interesting communities like Indian Fashion Addicts, right? Which is people posting images of themselves, in terms of what they're wearing. Sometimes they blur their face or put an emoji on it. Sometimes people are brave and actually show their face. But it's a fairly supportive community in terms of, okay, like, is what I'm wearing something that's, like, is this okay? Like, this is me and my wife going out for dinner. Does this look okay? And I think that's a pretty unique community in India. And the fact that it's supportive and people aren't just, there's not just hate being spread. I think that's quite unique.
With India being the fastest growing market for Reddit, is the communities that you've already mentioned, are they kind of the ones that are growing the fastest, or is there like a specific topic or community that you see kind of driving a lot of growth or being very popular?
With Reddit and where it is in India right now, there's actually, we look at it in two buckets. There's the existing scaled traffic leaders that, like the Bali blinds that have, 500, 600,000 users or members. So that's one bucket of, the scaled subreddits that have way more room to grow, because like the target addressable market in India is so big that we can actually still, like cricket, like there's so many people that want to engage in cricket discussions that are not on Reddit. There's so many people that want to engage in Bollywood discussions that are not on Reddit. So there's a lot of room in that bucket, but there's also these topic gaps, right? So new communities that are just emerging, like Chess India is one. People posting their chess moves. There's also AMAs that have been done there with grandmasters, Indian chess grandmasters. There's people posting videos of tournaments, upcoming championships that you can join. So Chess India is a community that I think has room to grow. Startups as well. So there's plenty of Indian startups, plenty of unicorns, but also brand new emerging startups that have a place as well. And I think that's a big opportunity for us to grow and give people advice for the unique Indian market context. Gaming, I think there's a lot that we can do in terms of growing communities there. The Indian like the comedy and stand-up scene is exploding. So many talented comedians. And I think a place for aspiring comedians to, just share their, try whatever they're trying out, their new bits, their new material. I think that would be really cool. So yeah, I think just going back to the two buckets, the ones that are already scaled, but also the emerging ones, there's room to grow in both, and that's what's really exciting.
How do you help those smaller country-specific communities to grow?
Yeah, so in the case of chess, I mean, we got 2 chess grandmasters from India to participate. So one we invited and worked with r/chess to get that the one with Grandmaster Arjun, that was with them. And then the one we had with Grandmaster Srinath, that was with Chess India, because we were looking to work with Chess India and grow that community. But it's really, for us, we're trying to give users what they want in terms of a diverse range of topics, right? So we have a lot of artists, like music related artists that are dropping a new single or a new album. So that's a steady stream of AMAs that we do. We've had like Bollywood actors. We in fact have one tomorrow as well. So movie releases when there's a Bollywood actor. So that's like r/Bollywood or r/Bolly Blinds and Gossip. We've had with Formula One as well. We had 2 Indian Formula One drivers. So we had Narain Karthikeyan, we had Harun Chandok. Both of those were on r/India. And that was really well received. Like we did App Store event promotions as well for those, drawing more people into the platform, into installing the Reddit app and then engaging on this AMA. But the AMA is really, yeah. So we've even had like mental health specialists for relationships, and yeah, like our goal is to whether it's comedians, whether it's any topic that we wish to grow, like even if it's like AI related and other people wanting to learn about AI, that's something we could do. One of the most popular posts on Cars India is someone who's just posted I bought this car, ask me anything. And I think that's the beauty of Reddit. It doesn't have to be the biggest celebrity. You can just be someone posting about their car, posting about this new musical instrument they bought, or it could be an artist that has a very niche following, but people just love that artist, right? So an example of one of our best performing AMAs is Anuv Jain. And I think like he had a career change. He's a young, I think he goes by, I'm a guy with a guitar. But Anuv Jain, that AMA did really well just because it works really well with our target audience on Reddit. And he just said, you know what, I'm not doing this AMA for 1 hour. I'm going to respond for 48 hours. And that I thought unlocked this crazy kind of virality, or, just people just continuously asking questions and him continuing to authentically engage. So I thought, yeah, that one did really well.
Reddit continues to invest in growing its international communities, and I was really excited to hear what the country growth leads were doing to facilitate that in each country. Thanks to Aaliyah, Vincent, Manuel, Nicole, and Asher for sharing their insights into their work. So what do you think? Does it sound cool to build Reddit, one of the largest sites on the internet? If so, check out our open positions at www.redditinc.com/careers. And to get more behind the scenes info, check out Reddit's engineering blog at reddit.com/r/redditeng. And that's it for now. See you in the next episode of Building Reddit. Building Reddit is an official podcast from Reddit. This episode was produced by Nick Singer and Ryan H. Lewis. Thanks for listening.